From this view, we can take a look at our existing repositories on the github.com website. These are all of the repositories associated with my account. You saw these in the last section of this module when I was showing how I could clone locally. You'll notice when I mouse over each one of these, they show me a great deal of information about them. This information is all useful, and I'll go ahead and explain everything that's on this page. The first thing that I want to make sure to note is that when you click on one of these, it brings up the README file if there is one. For some of these, we have information on the README file. On other ones, there is no README file. And some of our README files, while they exist, are lacking in information. Notice this icon that has this screen here. Each one of those is a repository that I've cloned locally already. If I click on the arrow, it'll go ahead and open this repository. And it'll bring us to the screen where we can see all of the information about that repository. If we go back, we can continue looking at the information on this screen. This icon over here on the left indicates that these are repositories that exist at other locations. You'll notice that the ones that we have locally, when we mouse over that repository, are showing us two pieces of information. They're first showing where the repository is on our local computer, as well as the location on the website. Brendan Pluralsight is my account name at GitHub, and the name following it is the name of the repository. That's the location where it's stored on GitHub. You'll also notice that it shows the local folder repository of that repository. Additionally, it shows the .git location. On the ones that aren't cloned locally, they only show the account name and repository name, which is where it would be located on github.com. And that's pretty much what's on this page. You can also filter and find only repositories that match with that name. Once you have quite a few, this becomes more useful. If we take a look at our list of local repositories, there are a few things that we can do from this screen. One of the first ones is, just like on the remote repositories, we can go ahead and search. This filter will limit us down to only the repositories that match our search criteria. This is useful if you have a lot of repositories. The next thing that I want to show on this screen is how you get to the Explorer version of this. If you right-click, you have a few options. You can view it on GitHub, which will open up a browser and take you to the website. You can open it in Explorer, you can open a shell here, and you can tell GitHub to forget about it. If you stop tracking this repository, the files will still remain, but it won't be in GitHub anymore. At least, your local copy won't. If you have a published version, that will remain there. And this desktop version of GitHub for Windows will not be tracking it any longer. You'll have to clone it again if you want to continue working. Let's go ahead and see what each one of these does. If we open the repository, it takes us to the information where we can see if we have any uncommitted changes. We don't right now. We can also see our commit history, as well as the files associated with any of those commits that we have selected. If we click on View on GitHub, it opens up GitHub and takes us to that repository. If we click Open in Explorer, it opens up that folder in Explorer. Clicking to open the shell will bring up our shell window, where we can go ahead and use the git command line that we learned about in the first module. And finally, if we click Stop tracking this repo, it will be removed from this view. The files will still be on the github.com website, and in fact the files are still on our computer. However, GitHub for Windows, the GUI client, is no longer tracking them. and so they don't show up in this list.